Hello. This is the Vietnam Social News Update for October 3, 2025. Date of news coverage, October 3, 2025. Politics. Vietnam's political landscape is drawing attention to several high-stakes developments this week. Most notably, preparations are underway for a rare trip by Party General Secretary To Lam to North Korea, likely in October. If confirmed, this would mark the first visit of a Vietnamese party chief to Pyongyang in nearly 2 decades. Though details remain undisclosed, the visit underscores Hanoi's desire to reaffirm ideological ties while balancing its international agenda. Domestically, the sweeping administrative reform continues to settle in. As of July 1st, Vietnam eliminated the district huyện tier of government and carried out mergers across communes and provinces, reducing the number of local units by around half. The reform is intended to streamline governance, reduce overlapping bureaucracy, and strengthen provincial and commune-level capacity. But critics remain cautious about the risks of over-centralization and local disconnects. The party's control over personnel appointments is also active. In Gia Lai Province, for example, a new party secretary was selected following the merger with parts of Bình Định. Meanwhile, provinces such as Hưng Yên are arranging new party leadership teams for the 2025 to 2030 term. These changes are part of the run-up to the 14th National Party Congress, as the party seeks to solidify loyalty, continuity, and control across all levels. Economy. Now, let's move to the economy. Vietnam's central bank has signaled bold ambitions in the face of global uncertainty. At a recent press briefing, Deputy Governor Pham Thanh Ha said the bank would prioritize growth, targeting a credit expansion rate of 19 to 20% in 2025. Lending has already grown by 13.37% year-to-date, and commercial banks are being urged to lower interest rates further. At the same time, authorities say they will strictly control exposure to high-risk sectors to prevent a surge in non-performing loans. These moves come against a backdrop of mounting natural disaster losses from Typhoon Bualaway. The death toll has risen to at least 51, and economic damages are now estimated at nearly 15.9 trillion dong. Some 230,000 homes were damaged or flooded, and tens of thousands of hectares of crops were destroyed. In response, the central bank is urging banks to restructure or freeze loans for firms hit by the disaster, while policymakers race to allocate reconstruction funds. Meanwhile, market-oriented reforms and external partnerships remain key drivers of Vietnam's growth strategy. At the Vietnam New Economy Forum 2025, experts urged deeper innovation, domestic resilience, and transformations in value chains. Leaders called for a mindset shift from outsourcing to owning products and intellectual property. And at the Saudi-Vietnam Business Forum in Hanoi, 5 investment agreements were signed across infrastructure, manufacturing, tourism, and workforce development, signaling Gulf investors' rising interest in Vietnam's economy. Also in the pipeline, the Prime Minister has urged increased housing construction to cool runaway real estate prices. With home prices straining affordability, new supply is being championed as a stabilizing remedy. Society and culture. Next, in society and culture, the human toll of Typhoon Bualaway continues to deepen. Many families still remain displaced, and rescue and relief operations are working around the clock to restore power, clear debris, and reopen transportation links. In the hardest-hit areas, damaged roads and landslides have cut off entire communities, compounding the hardship. The scale of the disaster is testing Vietnam's disaster response capacity and exposing the vulnerability of its climate-exposed regions. Culturally, Vietnam is also pushing to craft a more outward-looking narrative. The state's new English-language channel, Vietnam Today, continues to roll out programming aimed at global audiences, combining news, culture, business, and tourism stories under a unified national brand. Meanwhile, traditional festivals and community arts are adapting under constrained conditions. Mid-autumn celebrations, lantern workshops, and folk performances are being scaled or relocated indoors in disaster-affected zones. Social media and digital culture also remain vibrant. Crypto asset flows in Vietnam have surged, exceeding $220 billion in 2025, up 55% year-on-year. This growth underscores strong demand for digital financial services, remittances, and savings, even as regulators work to build a legal framework that balances innovation with stability. International relations. Finally, in international relations, Vietnam's external diplomacy remains focused on diversification and balancing amid shifting global currents. Relations with North Korea, strengthened by the expected upcoming visit, reflect Hanoi's commitment to ideological alliances, even as it hedges its international posture. At the same time, bilateral ties with more pragmatic partners are deepening. For instance, Vietnam and Mongolia are moving toward more substantive legislative and development cooperation across sectors. Trade diplomacy is also heating up. European Union officials are pressing Vietnam to dismantle administrative barriers that hinder EU goods, arguing that the bloc runs a widening trade deficit under the existing framework. Hanoi is under increasing pressure to harmonize regulations, especially in agriculture and industrial standards. At the same time, the Vietnamese government is actively seeking trade agreements beyond the US and China in order to mitigate tariff pressures and reduce dependency. Vietnam is also expanding its global economic footprint. Cuba has invited Vietnamese firms to invest in agriculture, food production, and infrastructure under favorable terms, offering land use rights and easing administrative procedures. Meanwhile, Vietnam's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is implementing reforms to simplify procedures for visas, conferences, and foreign entities, a move intended to enhance diplomatic engagement, foreign investment, and global connectivity. Through it all, Vietnam continues to navigate a policy of strategic flexibility, maintaining sovereignty, growing global ties, and avoiding rigid alignments in a world of intensifying competition. Thank you for listening to the Vietnam Social News Update. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you again tomorrow. This news summary is based on publicly available reports and rewritten uniquely for Vietnam Social News. VietnamNews.com is the official web address of Vietnam Social News. We are an independent platform, not affiliated with Vietnam News Agency or any government-owned media outlet.